Hello friends, in today's class we will discuss that Article 14 permits classification but prohibits class legislation.
In the given statement, mainly two concepts are of great importance. First, what Article 14 is all about, and second, what are the grounds of classification or concept of intelligent differentia. Article 14 forbids class legislation but does not forbid classification or differentiation which rests upon reasonable ground of distinction. The principle of equality does not mean that every law must have a universal application to all the persons who are not by nature, attainment, or circumstances in the same position. Article 14 provides that the state shall not deny to its citizens the equality before the law and the equal protection of the law within the territory of India. Equality before law. This is a British origin concept which aims to absence of the discrimination on the ground of birth, sex, caste, religion, race, etc. Basically, it is a negative concept. Equal protection of laws. This is an American concept. It implies that the equals should be treated equal in equal circumstances. This is a positive concept.
Test of reasonable classification. While Article 14 forbids class legislation, it does not forbid reasonable classification of the persons, objects and transactions by the legislature for the purpose of achieving the specific ends. In order to pass the test for the permissible classification, two conditions must be satisfied. First, the classification must be founded on an intelligible differentia which distinguishes persons or things that are grouped together from others left out of the group, and second, the differentia must have a rational relation to the object sought to be achieved by the statute in a question.
Where the law is questioned as a violation against Article 14, in the very first place, the court has to examine the purpose and the policy of the Act and then to investigate whether the classification made by the law has a reasonable nexus with the object which the legislature seeks to achieve. In order to be reasonable, a classification must not be arbitrary, artificial or evasive, but it must be rational.
In the case of Ramakrishna Dalmia, the Supreme Court has laid down certain grounds which are as follows. First, a law may be constitutional even though it relates to a single individual if on account of some special circumstances or reasons applicable to him and not applicable to others, that single individual may be treated as a class by himself.
Second, there is always a presumption in the favor of the constitutionality of an enactment, and the burden is upon him who attacks it to show that there has been a clear transgression of the constitutional principles. Third, it must be presumed that the legislature understands and correctly appreciates the need of its own people, that its laws are directed to problems made manifest by the experience. Fourth, the legislature is free to recognize the degrees of harm and may confine its restrictions to those cases where the need is deemed to be the clearest. Fifth, there is no right to equality in illegal acts. Discretion cannot be alleged on the ground that somebody has obtained an illegal benefit. Sixth, in order to sustain the presumption of constitutionality, the court may take into consideration matters of common knowledge, matters of common report, the history of the times, and may assume every state of facts which can be conceived existing at the time of the legislation. Seventh, the validity of a rule has to be judged by the assessing its overall effect and not by picking up exceptional cases. What the court has to see is whether the classification made is just, taking all aspects into consideration. 8. The court must look beyond the ostensible classification and to the purpose of the law and apply the test in the context of the felt needs of the times and societal exigencies informed by experience to determine the classification and reasonableness. Conclusion. The equal protection of laws guaranteed by Article 14 does not mean that all laws must be general in character. It does not mean that the same law should apply to all persons. In fact, identical treatment in unequal circumstances would amount to inequality. So, a reasonable classification is only not permitted but is necessary if society has to progress.